Hello everyone, and welcome back to Game Easy Roll Good. We are continuing our series on the base class changes for the Player's Handbook in Dungeons & Dragons 2024. So again, if you see me wearing the same clothes from one video to the next, it's probably because I'm recording these back to back. Sometimes I'll re-record them and you'll see a change in clothes or a change in the lighting because it's daytime right now. I kind of just woke up. But we're moving on to fighters now. So fighters have been pretty fantastically furbished. They were sort of the plain Jane Marshall class in 2014, but they've had a lot of pretty good changes, a lot of good changes in the Player's Handbook for 2024. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Starting with their core traits, we can see buffs to their skills. Persuasion was added to the list of skills that they can choose from at level 1. So this is a pretty good change because, you used to have to try to get this from either your background or your species if they had an optional skill that you could take. It was hard for a fighter to be good in social interactions because they couldn't use things like persuasion. You still had it like intimidation, of course, but people don't always want to play like that. So it's nice that you can actually take this proficiency, and I think it's a good signal that fighters maybe have other options for functioning outside of combat. And then in addition, the starting equipment has changed for basically all the classes, whereas previously it was sort of a different just equipment options that you would choose from. Now specifically for fighters, option A is a melee package, option B is a ranged package, and option C replaces the starting wealth that used to have as an optional feature in the Player's Handbook for 2014. And the way that it works out is that it's usually about slightly above average of what you could have rolled previously. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little more. But I think I don't even know which one's going to be the best one to do, because I feel like there's so many good. Again, all the adventuring gear. If you haven't seen my adventuring gear video, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can buy now that maybe isn't included in these other packs. Although you do start with some leftover gold, but I think it's worth taking a look at what's maybe the most optimal thing to buy for certain classes. Moving on to multi-class inheritance. Again, multi-class inheritance is what you get from the core traits when you take a level in fighter from a different class. So the main thing here is that simple weapons have been removed, but all classes now have proficiency in simple weapons. You also, of course, get all the base class, the level 1 features of the fighter, but of the core traits, the simple weapon proficiency has been removed. Moving on to level 1. The fighting styles have changed just a little bit. So fighting styles are now considered sort of special feats, and the only way to get access to these special feats is through the fighting style class feature. So it's effectively the same, although some styles have been nerfed and buffed. You can see my fighting style tier list video earlier on my channel. Additionally, you can now replace a fighting style with another one when you gain a level in fighter, which you couldn't previously, which is pretty cool. So let's say that you're playing sword and board before, but you happen to find like a really good magic bow or something, and you don't have someone who can use a bow in your party, then you can pick that up, change to archery, and make good use of that, which is pretty cool. Second wind has been pretty changed significantly. I mean, the changes are small, but there are a lot of other features that are built off of the uses of second wind that I think are really interesting and kind of help the fighter in a very positive way. So second wind itself, it gets 2 uses at level 1. This is up from 1 in 2014. You regain 1 use on a short rest, which is basically the same as it always was because you only ever had 1 in 2014, but now you have 2. And then you regain all uses of it on a long rest. And then you have up to 3 uses at level 4, and then up to 4 uses at level 10. So that's, again, 4 uses of second wind, and second wind, you use a bonus action to regain hit points equal to 1d10 plus your fighter level. But there are more uses that we'll see a little further down in the slides here. Additionally, they added the weapon masteries, of course. So fighters are the only class that starts with more than 2. They get 3 at level 1. This increases up to 4 at level 4, up to 5 at level 10, and up to 6 at level 16. So not only are they the class that start with the most masteries, but they also end with the most masteries at 6. The second place there is the barbarian, who has 4 by level 10, was it, I believe. But in addition to just having the most masteries, the fighter also gets additional features that we'll see later that basically either give them access to just more masteries in general, or are sort of a feature that acts like other masteries but isn't technically a mastery. Again, we'll cover that a little bit later. But yeah, that's masteries are pretty cool, but the fighter just gets so many of them if they want to switch out weapons. Moving on to level 2, we have Action Surge. So Action Surge has been nerfed a little bit here, where you can no longer use the magic action. This means that you can't cast spells using the Action Surge action. You can't activate magic items, use spell scrolls, or any class features that specifically say that they are the magic action. Fighters themselves shouldn't feel this. This is mainly put in there to nerf, full spellcasters taking 2 levels in Fighter to get Action Surge to cast 2-leveled spells on the same turn. The Eldritch Knight might feel this a little bit. Certain multi-classes might feel this a little bit if you're dipping into spellcasting or class features that have a magic action attached to it. But overall, this is not going to change much for just a plain fighter. Secondly, they added Tactical Mind. This is a brand new feature that again grants an alternate use for Second Wind. This is kind of what I was talking about before, how Second Wind has been much more integrated into something that the fighter can use as a tool. So let's read what Tactical Mind says. It says, you have a mind for tactics on and off the battlefield. When you fail an ability check, you can expend a use of your Second Wind to push yourself towards success. Rather than regaining hit points, you roll 1d10 and add the number rolled to the ability check, potentially turning it into a success. If the check still fails, this use of Second Wind isn't expended. So this is basically sort of like a bardic inspiration for yourself. And it's a 1d10, which is something that the bard doesn't get until I think it's level 10, like level 9 or 10 it goes up to 1d10. And you're getting this at level 2. So if you're in a social encounter and you're trying to persuade someone and you fail the roll, you can use your Second Wind to expend that use of it and then roll 1d10 and add it to the check. If you're exploring and need to do survival or anything like that, you can actually be better at those checks now, which is really great. And again, if you fail, you still keep that use of Second Wind. So there's no risk for it. You either succeed and it's useful, or you don't succeed and you still keep that use of Second Wind for later. So that's really cool. I really like this feature. It comes online at level 2, which means that you can basically just use it right away. Wonderful feature to make the fighter just more versatile outside of combat. Moving on to level 5, they added a tactical shift feature. Again, this is a brand new feature that adds on to Second Wind even a little bit more. It says whenever you activate your Second Wind with a bonus action, so this specifically refers to the healing yourself with it, because the feature that we just talked about doesn't use your bonus action. It says you can move up to half of your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So if you're in the face of a pretty dangerous enemy who just ran up on you and kind of clocked you a bit, and you need to get to a safer position, you can bonus action, Second Wind, heal yourself up a little bit, and then run away from them without provoking opportunity attacks, which is pretty great. Great change. Moving on to level 9, we have Indomitable. So Indomitable was the feature that allows you to re-roll a failed saving throw. Previously, you just had to re-roll it and then use the new roll, but now you can re-roll it and add your fighter level to the re-roll. Whereas, so that can basically almost guarantee a success, especially as you get higher in levels as a fighter. So that's just an insane change, to be honest. You get this at level 9. So if you fail a saving throw and you re-roll it, +9 plus whatever bonuses you have from your proficiencies or just your basic modifiers, the odds of you failing is pretty low unless you just roll low. So that's an excellent change for the fighter. And then Tactical Master is a brand new feature. This is one of the features that I was talking about that basically expands upon the weapon masteries for the fighter. So it says you can use the push, sap, or slow masteries without having a weapon of that type. So push, of course, pushes a creature that's larger, smaller, 10 feet. Sap gives them disadvantage on their next attack roll before your next turn. And then slow, of course, slows them down by 10 feet. So basically, if you're using like a polearm with the cleave option, but you don't have any enemies to cleave on, you can still use the push, sap, or slow instead of that, instead of using the cleave option, because you don't have that available. So basically, once you're at level 9 as a fighter, you don't need to have weapons. You don't need to know the masteries for push, sap, and slow, because you just have access to them all the time. So that's pretty excellent. Moving on to level 13, we have Studied Attacks. This is the next feature that I think is sort of acting sort of like a weapon mastery. So it says you study your opponents and learn from each attack you make. If you make an attack roll against a creature and miss, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature before the end of your next turn. So this is sort of like a reverse Vex. So Vex is if you hit the creature with a weapon that has the Vex mastery, then you have advantage on your next attack roll. Whereas this one says if you miss the creature, then you have advantage on your next attack roll. So if let's say you're playing like a bow fighter and you have a weapon that one of the range weapon that has Vex. This basically means whether you hit or miss, you're always going to have advantage on your next attack, which is pretty crazy. I don't know that this fixes the problem with bows, but or ranged weapons in general, but it's just a really good feature to have. So this is again just a really good feature. Moving on, we just jump straight to level 19. There's nothing really significant happening for fighters between then and now. Again, you get the epic boons that are unlocked at level 19, and again, this is not a level 19 in that class. This is level 19 as a character. So if you become character level 19 and you have ability score increase or a feat unlocked at that level, then you can grab an epic boon. And I believe that's the end of it for fighters. Yeah, we're moving on to the summary because the capstone for the fighters is still you just get one more attack. So we can see that for the fighters, the only thing that's been nerfed is the action surge, but this is mainly nerfing casters, not really the fighter themselves. But we can see that skills have been buffed. Second wind has been pretty significantly buffed. Weapon masteries, again, anything highlighted in green here is a new feature. So weapon masteries have been buffed, action surge, nerfed, whatever. Tactical mind is a buff, tactical shift is a new feature and a buff, indomitable buffed, tactical master buffed. I think it's just so many buffs for the fighter class, and they are much more useful outside of combat now because they can use their second wind to give them sort of a bardic inspiration on themselves. So just so many great changes for the fighter. They're no longer just this, let me get into combat please so I can do my thing. Just really exciting changes. So what among these is your favorite change for the fighter class? Let me know down in those comments. What builds are you thinking about? What do you think of the studied attacks? If you use a Vex weapon, you basically have permanent advantage, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, let me know what you think down in those comments. And again, while you're on the way down to those comments, please hit that like button. If you like the format that I have here, then please consider hitting that subscribe button, especially if you keep coming back to these videos and aren't subscribed yet. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, I appreciate your guys' time, and I'll see you in the next video for the next martial class. Thank you.